What's good, y'all? Welcome to my review for Season 2 of The Last of Us, man. My god, what a season. Now, you guys know that, like I mentioned, my first impressions, I was very nervous. I was a bit cautious about this season, wondering, like, what Neil learned from his mistakes from The Last of Us Part 2? Would this actively fix a lot of the game's, problems that have with the story and make this the definitive version of Part 2 story? And judging off this season alone, because obviously we have Season 3 and now confirmed that we're going to get Season 4 as well, which you guys know my original theory for this was going to be Season 2 would be Ellie's story and Season 3 would be Abby's story along with the final stretch of the game when you find when Abby and Ellie have their final showdown. That is not the case. Season 2 is going to be Ellie's story, Season 3 is going to be Abby's story, and then Season 4 is going to be the actual final stretch of the game when Ellie finishes the fight, to quote the Master Chief. Because literally, like, a few weeks ago while the show was actively airing, I think this was, like, after, like, episode 6, it might have been after episode 5. I think it was like Craig Mason had said, like, oh, they're going to need an extra season to, like, finish off The Last of Us Part 2 storyline. Now, why they need to make it a Season 4 instead of just, extending Season 3? Probably just because they can, like, stretch it out more and give milk The Last of Us for all it's worth, man, for HBO and whatnot, which, whatever the case may be. It's sort of whatever to me, man. More Last of Us for me. Now, before I mentioned before, like I mentioned right before I got sidetracked a little bit, I would say going off this first season alone, they are definitely on the right track of making this a definitive version of The Last of Us Part 2 storyline. Now, then again, Ellie's story was like the one that most people had enjoyed. It was always happy that everyone had issue with. That's going to be the real one, because that's where all my problems with the game's story goes. My problem with the game's plot all stem from Abby's story with Owen, her relationship with Abby, some of her other cast members I just didn't really care about. A lot of my story issues I have with the game were from Abby's storyline, not so much Ellie. So Ellie was sort of like the easy part, and the last section will also be like the part. Abby is like the tricky one. Can they make me care about her crew? Can they fix a lot of the issues I have with Abby's storyline and certain characters, man? And, can we get all that? So we'll have to wait and see on that and see how that goes when Season 3 airs, man. But Season 2, man, my God, this was fucking brilliant, man. There are so many sequences I want to talk about, man. So much great parts of the episode, man, that I love. How they expanded on certain things from The Last of Us Part 2. Changed some details that we saw from how they differ from the game, man. Now, like always, I mentioned in my first impression of Season 2, as well as I'm pretty sure this is my review for Season 1. For the spoiler-free discussion, everything that isn't in the show is spoiled. I'm going to talk about getting spoiler-free about the show as well as the game. I will not get into spoiler discussion for that. But once we get to the spoilers, which I'm going to be honest, is probably mostly just me, 90% of me talking about episode 6, man, because that's easily my favorite episode of The Last of Us series, like, period, man. I fucking love that episode. But then again, that was also my favorite parts of the game, so not really that surprising as well. That's going to conclude spoilers for the show, the game, everything. So letting you guys know that right now. So, tread cautiously once you get to the spoilers that you guys have not played the game and you guys don't want to get spoiled about some of the later parts of the game that we'll see in Season 3 and now Season 4. Now, so yeah. Anyway, guys, the plot of the last Season 2 is Ellie is on a revenge quest to save Joel to avenge Joel, excuse me. Now, first of all, man, the cast is great, man. Bella Ramsey, Jesus H. Christ, this woman, man. Okay, now, you guys know, if you guys have been watching Last of Us Part 2, or Season 2, rather, that there has definitely been some controversy about them, and this has been the thing since, Season 2 was announced, and they announced they were going to keep Bella instead of recasting her for an older actress, sell like a 5-year or however many time skip that we have between The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2. She is brilliant in here, man. Like, Episode 6, I'm going to mention that Episode 6 a lot, man. I loved Episode 6. She shines in Episode 6. That is easily the best performance she's had as Ellie in the series, period, man, so far. I doubt she'll ever top that performance, man, because she was so good there. But we'll wait and see. But yeah. Bella, Episode 6 performance was basically everything you need to know why they kept her and why they didn't recast her. Because, my God, she was absolutely sensational in that episode, man. The rest of the show, she's obviously great as well, but, like, Episode 6 is where she really shines. Pedro, he's great as well, man. We talk about him. He was great in the first season. Well, he doesn't get a lot in this season because obviously, minor spoiler, but I've got this like the one spoiler I have to talk about because it's literally what the entire game's plot is built around. Joel's death. He has a lot of screen time, man. But whenever he's on screen, man, Pedro's awesome, man. I mentioned before previously in my first impressions. I love the stuff with the therapist, man. And when we get to the talk sequence later on, episode 6, once again, spectacular, man. Pedro, man, he is spectacular, man. And I'll say this right now, man. The talk scene is like the one place where I will say that Pedro's performance was better than Troy's. I will say. It's like the one time I'll say it because he was just so good in that scene, man. I was annoyed he wasn't doing the lean like Joel is in the game. He's just kind of like standing up straight, instead of like leaning over the porch, drinking his coffee, man. I kind of like Joel being way more chill and relaxed about the whole thing rather than him being kind of like, standing up straight one now, man. I just think I kept that bit from the game. But yeah, the sequence itself was fantastic, man. Isabella Merced, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it, as Dina. She was fantastic. I love what they do with Dina in this show, man. And also, let's be honest, she's also hot. She's really hot outside. Mention that real quick. But I love what they do with Dina, man. Now, I don't know if everything was in the game, and it just felt like they didn't here in the show because obviously we're constantly flipping back and forth between her and Abby and, flashbacks and whatnot. But I loved how they really expanded a lot more on Ellie and Dina's relationship in the show compared to the game. Like I said, I'm going off my memory, man, so it might have been like everything in here was in the game as well, and it just feels like the shows are expanding on more because this entire season was focused just on Ellie rather than flip-flopping back and forth between Abby, Ellie, and, flashbacks with Ellie. But I love what they did with Dina, man. And I really liked how they expanded a lot more on her and Ellie's relationship, man. Like, I always enjoyed them in the game as well when I was playing the part 2, but I really fell in love with them here in the show, man. And I love what they do with Abby and Ellie's, not Abby, with Ellie and Dina's relationship, man. She's phenomenal, man. Caitlin Dever, who plays Abby. Now, you guys remember, in my original review for season 2, or in my first impressions rather, I mentioned about what the fuck, why isn't Abby jacked? Why isn't she jacked in the show? Now I forget if I mentioned this in my first impression. This is something I found after my first impressions video, and I saw it after when the show's airing. But now I don't know. Now so far this hasn't been confirmed. Like in the little like inside the episode thing, they never mentioned why Abby isn't jacked to the gills like she is in the game. But if you guys have actually watched the grounded documentary for The Last of Part 2 on its development cycle, you guys know that actually Abby was actually meant to look more like Ellie in terms of build and everything, man. But it was like the hierarchy. So they'd say they wanted her to be jacked up to look more like Joel. So, and given that fact, that's probably why she isn't jacked to the gills, because obviously she was originally supposed to look like this in the game and not be strictly jacked like she actually is in part 2. So, now obviously we don't see a lot of Abby in the show, man, because like I said, this is Ellie's story. But for the little bits of her, man, I think she's great, man. Obviously we'll see for real how she truly stands in season 3 when we see her, Lev, her and with the rest of her crew, man. Season 3 is definitely going to be her season, and we'll see how she fares there. But from the bits where we saw, I thought she was pretty good as Abby. Now, and yeah, the rest of the cast is great as well, man. So, now, I mentioned the cast is great, man. I love the music in this part too, man. Like the track they were playing when Ellie is going to the aquarium in the final episode. I love that track there, man. I loved how they overall, like I said, they expand on Ellie and Dina's relationship, man. They really expand on that one, man. I really like what they did with Abby and Ellie, and with Abby. I don't know, I keep saying Abby. With Ellie and Dina, man. I love we'll talk more about others to get more specifics into certain things, man, once we get to the sports discussion. But I like that they did change up certain things from how they portrayed in the game, man. And I liked how they overall just handled their relationship, like I said, it seemed like they expanded it a lot more in this show than compared to how it was in the game. Episode 6, like I mentioned before, is the highlight of the season, man. It is such an incredible episode, adapting the flashback sequences and some other stuff in that episode. It's just so good, man. I love episode 6. I am going to be trying to be kind of vague with this one, man, but we'll get more into deep for the sport. But like I said, my first impression, man, I love the whole sequence they did with Ellie, with Joel and his therapist, man. I thought that was cool. I wish they expand more on that and we got more of his therapy sessions. With the therapist, man, but I really like the little bits we saw here, man. The second episode, when we actually get to see like a horde of like ice clickers or snow or clickers that were covered in snow and infected, charging towards Jackson, and we see Tommy and the rest of Jackson team up together to take out the clickers, the bloaters, and all the other infected that came charging. Like, that whole episode was phenomenal. Like, obviously we have the stuff with Abby as well. That was pretty cool as well. Like when she's getting chased by the clickers and her and Joel finally meet up and everything, man. Like, that whole sequence was great and shot fantastic. But I love the whole sequence when they actually showed Jackson working together to take out these clickers and working together and everything, man. That was especially when Tommy is faced off one-on-one with the bloater, and he has a flamethrower, man, but then he like fires up and then he runs out and it feels like he's about to die, but then that's when the bloater finally like falls over and dies, man. Such an amazing episode, man. Episode 2 was so good, man. One part that I actually thought was kind of funny, and then like I said, this goes more with them expanding on Abby and Elle's relationship, is that they go to this part of this area style, which this was definitely not in the game. Which one thing I did notice that they did cut out. They seem to cut out all the ties of Dina being Jewish. Because if I remember correctly, Dina is Jewish, and we have this whole section in the game where you got to voice, I believe they're called synagogues, or whatever the church equivalent is for Jews is, and you get this whole little like section in the game where you get to explore its area and everything. Dina tells about lower modern layer culture and whatnot, man, and you could like continue on from there. That's completely cut out of the game, which I thought was interesting. They cut out that little bit of characterization from Dina, which I thought was interesting, man. But whatever. Like I said, they do a lot with so much. They do way more with Dina in this game that I don't really care. I wasn't really that, wasn't that into that part or did care, whatever. Anyway, but I was like, I thought it was kind of interesting they cut that whole part out of there. But anyway, as I was saying, one thing I thought was pretty cool and kind of funny was as they're exploring Seattle, they seemingly run into like this area of Seattle that seemed to be like more of like, that was like an LGBT hub or a center for the LGBT community in Seattle in the early 2000s. I don't know if this is based off a real location in Seattle. Eric Kimmer, who you guys may know as the voice of Senpai in Nagatoro. He voices the MC in Excel World, man. The Snake guy in Demon Slayer, man, he voiced a lot of characters. He's a native from Seattle. He hasn't streamed he hasn't streamed at all since like the early parts of season 2, so I haven't gotten the chance to ask him like this if this is like an actual based off a real location in Seattle, not because he is from Seattle. But anyway, they got to hear there seemed to be like some sort of LGBT hub, which I don't know if that's like really actually I feel like it's more of a modern thing because it's remember Last of Us when the infection happens takes place in the early 2000s, so I feel like this wouldn't exist, but whatever. Like I said, I am no expert on Seattle or whatnot. If this wasn't based on a legit location in Seattle or whatnot. But anyway, as I was saying, they get to this part there, and like they have and because of course they're in the middle of it, they're in the middle of the apocalypse, man, massive infection going on there, man, society is broken down and whatnot and all that jazz, man, that they have no idea what the LGBT pride flag is. They see this mural about pride, they're like, what the fuck is that? And I just thought that was so funny. And not to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, man, but say what you will about Neil Druckmann as a writer, but at least this dude knows how to keep everything when bringing in characters from different backgrounds, whether they're LGBT or whatnot, and making it still feel like it's still operates and works within the same rules of this universe, man. Because as some of you guys may know, this is like the most ranted, but I wanted to mention this real quick because I feel this kind of shows you that, like, at least that even if you don't like Neil's writing, you think he's overrated, you think The Last of Us Part 2 sucks and whatnot, man, you gotta admit he's at least a semi-competent writer. At least it shows up right here, man. But anyway, you guys remember like the new Dragon Age game came out, and a lot of people didn't like it, man. There's a bunch of like LGBT type characters and whatnot, very much diverse, and people are calling it woke or whatnot or whatever the case may be. But Angry Joe in his review mentioned how the game doesn't even follow its own rules with certain characters and like dead naming them or using them on pronouns and whatnot, man. And then I believe it was Actman, his video, mentioned about, like, I think he was quoting something that might have been the game director, Fallout New Vegas, said, that if you're going to do politics in game, if you want it to work and feel seamless, you have to make it operate within the rules of that universe, which I think The Last has done. Like I said, we have the whole mural thing. They're in a post-apocalyptic. Ellie and Dina would not live in the area where there are pride flags on like a modern day in social media, so you would no idea what the hell that is, man. You also have Lev, which I'm not going to get more into him about that because obviously I get some spoilers for people that haven't played the game yet. But Lev, how they handled his character, man, we'll talk more about it when we get to there, but we have that part as well with Lev and everything, man. And there's also some other part, and yeah, that's like the main two, man. But like they still keep within the universe. You don't have characters coming out like, oh hi, I am non-binary fucking asexual fucking I go by they them pronouns or whatnot. You don't got that in The Last of Us, man. They actually keep everything still within the universe, man. And like I said, Lev's characterization, how they handled Lev, man, I feel that really was perfectly well handled. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. That's getting a little bit spoiled. Let's talk about Lev, man. Although As you guys can tell, if you guys watched my stream for the last part 2, I'm really excited for season 3 just because we finally get to see Lev. I was hoping we might see a cameo of him, which maybe we do because we do see a couple child Seraphites, but I'm pretty sure none of them are Lev. So we'll have to wait for season 3 once they start dropping trailers to finally see our first look at Lev. But I'm excited to see my boy Lev. I love Lev, man. He was probably my favorite character from Abby's story, man. I love Lev. He's a real one, man. Shout out to Lev, man. He's a goated. But anyway, we got that whole thing, man. I love the horror elements in this show, man. How they introduce how they introduce stalkers. I believe this was in the second episode. This might have been the first episode, but I really liked how they introduced stalkers and the little bits of when we get to see them later on in the series with Abby and Dina, man. That was really cool, man. And how the Seraphites are treated, man. They keep the moody lighting and everything, man. They really sell the creepy cult vibe of them, man. And I love whenever the Seraphites are on screen, man. Especially when we got this whole sequence with Ellie, in the final episode. That was really well handled, man. The Seraphites, the little bits of appearances they have in the season, because obviously season 3 is when they're gonna really get to see the Seraphites, because obviously that was the enemy type that Ellie was fighting with, that Abby was fighting off, was the Seraphites for her storyline. So that's where we're really gonna get to know about the Seraphites more with Abby's storyline in season 3. But I like the little bits we got, the little teaser, and then we got to see through Ellie's storyline in season 2. There's also a lot of other additions that I think that were really cool, man. Like in the game, man, like in the show, man, we also get to see them having this little council meeting in Jackson to decide whether or not to bring in a squad of people to avenge Joel with Ellie. That was really cool, man. Bigot Sandwiches also gets a bigger role, though I am disappointed at the line where after the dude apologizes and give him the sandwiches with like meat in them, she does it and she hands them to Jesse. She doesn't say Bigot Sandwiches, bro. I was so disappointed, man. I was so sad that line was cut, man, because I love that line, man. It's so funny. I love it. And I was so sad they got cut out, man. But they redeemed it by giving a bit of a bigger role and a little bit more to do in season 2, which we'll talk more about this, which I'll mention it here. That I really like, where we actually see him helping helping Ellie and Dina get out of Jackson to head over to Seattle. That was really cool, man. And like I said, this goes on with expanding on their storyline, where we actually get to see, like, right before Ellie's about to leave by herself, Dina shows up, man, helps her out, with packing and everything, man, and making sure she's well prepared, which I'm pretty sure that wasn't in the game as well. So that was pretty cool, man. The whole sequence when we do see Joel's death, man, I think was done pretty good. Though I will say that the game was definitely better because, one, it was way more visceral compared to the show, man. Because you get to really, because, like, in the game, man, Abby is just beating the shit out of Joel with his golf club. And the golf club never breaks. In the show, the golf club does break, man. And you guys know the final blows in the game and how Joel died in the game was that she kept whacking on him a few more times and to, like, really punctuate his death. Well, here, man, and, like, I kind of like what they did with the sound design in this one, but I will say I don't think it was as much as strong. It's almost like that Neil saw the criticism and just the reaction Joel's death got, so they decided to pull back on it a little bit, make it not as graphic in the show because of the reaction he gave in the game, and because, like, in this one, like I said, the golf club breaks off and this time she just stabs him in the throat. They do a really cool thing with the sound design, man, where it kind of like fades to nothingness and you hear like this little like humming sound. I think it was done pretty well, but like I will say, I definitely prefer the game's version. Funny enough, that was way more graphic and violent, man, and definitely really sold the savagery of this and everything, man, about the world of the last one, man. So I think the show did his death pretty well as well, man. But I will say I definitely prefer the game's version, man. At least in my opinion, anyway, man. Jesse, they also expanded a lot more on him in the game. He really didn't do much. Besides being like, Dina's former boyfriend before, her and Ellie get together, man. But I really like what they did with Jesse when they expanded him a lot more, give him a lot more screen time, man. And we get to see more of his backstory, which we didn't see at all in the game. And that was pretty cool, man. I liked how they expanded upon Jesse's storyline in season 2. Now, Stars for Cosmin, like I said, I wish Bigot Sandwiches didn't get cut out of the game, man. There's some other small stuff that got cut that I was a little bit, that I didn't really like. Like I said, the whole thing with Joel not leaning over got cut out, man. I was kind of like sad to see that I wish we saw more of Joel's therapy sessions. And yeah, I think that's about all the problems I can think of off the top of my head that I had issues with, man, because I was just having a blast while watching season 2 from start to finish, man. There was so much I loved in him. Like it kept everything I loved from part two, expand on the things I loved that I already did love, and change things out for the parts that I wasn't super hot on. Honestly, man, the pacing in this was perfect, man. You guys know, like I said, one of the major problems with the last part two, at least from a lot of people, but I didn't really have one, was the game's pacing and the constant flipping back and forth between Ellie, Abby, and Dina. With Abby and Ellie, and then of course flashbacks and everything, man. But this one, also the way this show was filmed and everything was paced. And also, kind of wish the game was released like this as like two separate games, like two separate parts of the same game, and like you would have to play Ellie section through one part, and then the next part of the game you play through Abby's section. Also, kind of wish I wish that's how the game was formatted, because I feel this flowed a lot smoother. Compared to how it did in the game, man. Now we'll get into spoilers, because like I said, guys, everything is fair game. Season 2 spoilers, the game spoilers for part 2. If you guys don't want to get spoiled, leave. So, let's talk about episode 6. So, the big thing with this one was that this episode basically adapted all the flashbacks into this episode, man. We have obviously the big one with the museum, with the spaceship and everything, man, for Ellie's birthday, which was incredible, man. It was a more of a condensed version, like we don't see Abby, Ellie. I don't know why I keep saying Abby. I don't even know why I keep trying to combine Ellie and Abby's names. Where we see Ellie can make funny faces in the mirror like you could in the game while you were exploring that area. You can't. We don't see that in the show, man. I'm pretty sure there was other parts of that level that was trimmed out from here. So this was more of a condensed version of it, man. They combined that one, but also seemingly cut out the other two, which I could be misremembering this one. I forget this was like two separate flashbacks or just one. Where one where Tommy was showing Ellie how to use a sniper rifle and training how to use a sniper, while another one was Ellie and Joel just messing around, searching some areas, and they eventually run into some clickers. Or like they run into some clickers, they have to fight off a bloater in the game, man, which that was a great sequence as well, which was cut out here. Like I said, it was just that one, it was just the main museum, which was that was the best one, so I might as well kept it in. So whatever, the other two weren't really that plot significant, man, so it's kind of whatever. But they kind of mixed that scene in together, and then this is something I'm also like really conflicted about, and like I don't know if this was the right call for the show to do, and I literally just remembered it, was they also add in the talk scene, like I mentioned before. The talk scene is in this season. Now, as you guys know in the game, you did not see the whole thing with Ellie and Joel talking about the whole thing, and Ellie wanting to forgive Joel, or at least try to forgive Joel, until the end of the game when Ellie is trying to drown Abby. You get a little brief snippet of it before Ellie finally lets her go, and her and Lev get to run off while Ellie just kind of sits there, and we see the full sequence and we see that whole cutscene, man, which at least to me feels like it completely recontextualizes the game and Ellie's actions. Because once again, her autonomy or whatever, like the something else that something else was ripped away from her. Her life being given meaning was ripped to her by Joel, 100% justified though. After all, we all would have done the same. And then her chance to forgive Joel was ripped away from her by Abby as well when she killed Joel. So, continues on the whole love-hate thing that The Last of Us definitely is always like a major theme of The Last of Us. And I don't know if I like them putting it like right here, during that whole episode right after Ellie kills the first of Abby's crew. And like it was, like I said, it was done perfectly, man. It was like my favorite episode, man. And all that, but I do not know about if I like putting the talk scene in there as well. I feel like that kind of robs the audience of that same old shit mode that I had when I was playing the game, when we got to that at the end of the game, man. So I don't know if I like that, man. We'll have to see how this turns out with season 3 and season 4, obviously. So my opinion of this might change, but like right now, man, I'm definitely conflicted on that. And I don't know how I feel about that scene being added there, being used way earlier in the game compared to how it was, or way early in the show compared to how it was used in the game. So I also loved how they changed up some of the moments with Ellie and Dina. Now, as you guys know, in the game with Ellie and Dina, the whole thing with that one was where they find out during the whole opening of the section. This was like opening the game, like during that whole area when Ellie and Dina are together. They kind of like go to the grocery store or whatever. They're going on in that area. Which, like I said, I told you I love that scene. It was like, even though I have no idea what Ellie and Dina were saying to each other, it was still a pretty fun sequence, and they obviously had great chemistry together. In the game, that's when they kind of chill out, smoking some weed. That's when you can find the dog tag for Eugene or whatever her therapist's husband's name was. And you got all that, and that's also where you get the scene where where Dina finds out that Ellie is immune because they had to go because they were like going into an era with spores, and Ellie quickly throws on her gas mask onto Dina because obviously she's immune, she doesn't need that, and to make sure that Dina would live. And then that's when she finally realized. Then she finally learns about the scar and everything, man, and all that jazz. So. And while in here, man, instead during the whole section where they're like underground in like a train station, I don't know if this was in the game. I'm pretty sure this was all new for the show, where they end up like being surrounded by clickers and whatnot. They have to escape. They do this whole thing where they're trying to get out of the train station, and Ellie puts her hand in between her and Dina, between Dina and the clicker, and the clicker bites on Ellie, and Dina manages to escape, man. Dina obviously thinks that she's infected and tries to kill Ellie before she can get infected and turn and whatnot, and Ellie tells her that she's immune, and they do a whole thing where she waits for her to waits for the next day to show that she's immune. The next day happens, she's fine, and then they have sex. Which was kind of surprising. I'm like, should you really be having sex right now? Like, right after she was bit? Like, yeah, Ellie might be immune, but that doesn't mean you are, Dina. Like, can this shit be sexually transmitted? Can the cortisone virus spread through sexual intercourse, man? Like, I thought that was a little bit funny that they're doing this like right after Ellie got bit. It was like a day later, but like I'm still like I feel like this is a little too soon to be doing this. But yeah, man. So that was I liked how they redid that one because I honestly thought they were gonna cut that from the show completely because we completely skipped that part of the game. We were well into the show by this point, so I honestly thought they were gonna just completely skip that bit and just skip it completely. But no, they just moved it further along in the game or in the show rather. Excuse me. Now back to the whole episode 6. So. Like I said, we do the museum and everything, man, and then we get to the sequence that I love. That was definitely probably the sequence that got changed the most. Is how Ellie finds out about Joel lying to her about what happened with the Fireflies. Now, if you guys remember in the game, if I remember correctly, I could be misremembering some stuff. Ellie just one day just leaves Jackson. She runs off, and then Joel has to go find her. They go to some location. I don't know if it was. I forget it. I believe they went to a hospital. I don't know if it was the same hospital in St. Louis that was where the whole thing happened with the Fireflies. If that was the same place or it was like a different hospital, a different area entirely, man, near Jackson. Whatever the case may be, that was the whole thing. And then Joel tells us the truth and everything, man. And we get this great sequence from Ashley where Ashley sells like she's having a fucking heart attack, man. It was fucking amazing. But here, it's completely different in the show. In the show, we get to see Ellie actually slowly starting to realize and doubt Joel in his story, poking holes in his story about what actually happened with the Fireflies. And then we get to Eugene. Now, Eugene, like I mentioned before in my first impressions of the video, was a completely nothing character. Literally just a dog that you can collect while exploring the game, man. That's it. In the show, he's been expanded into an actual character, man. Is the husband to the therapist, man, and all that jazz. And here we find out where Joel and Ellie were going on their first patrol together. They run into some infected, and Eugene. They find Eugene. He's already been bit, and Joel obviously wants to go shoot him, take care of him before he turns and everything, man. And Eugene begs with Joel and Ellie to take him back to Jackson to see his wife one last time. And to say his last one time before he ends up turning and killing himself, or they kill him and whatnot. And Joel obviously doesn't want to risk it, but Ellie tells him to hold his hand down and count to 10. He's able to do that perfectly. She's like, he still has time. Let's go. So Joel tells Ellie, grab the horses, and Ellie's obviously suspicious that he's gonna kill him, and she says, I'm not gonna kill him, I promise. And then she goes away. And Joel takes him out to this beautiful backlot, this beautiful lakeside area. I don't know if this shit was done on location, this was green screen or done with the fucking volume. I do not know. But this view was fucking beautiful, man. God damn, this was gorgeous. Like I said, I don't know if they found this shit on. This was something they filmed on location. They just happened to find this gorgeous view of the lake overlooking the mountains and everything. It was truly a gorgeous. Probably the best shot in the entire series, honestly. It was such a beautiful shot. So I don't know how that whole thing was done, man, but it's a beautiful shot nonetheless. And he takes him to there, man. He tells him this is when Joel, and that's when Eugene finally realizes that Joel is gonna kill him. He begs and wants to see his wife again, and Joel tells him if you love them, you can always see their face. And then he finally gets to see his face, and then Joel finally kills him. Ellie is shocked by this whole thing, and the look on Bella's face as they walk back with dragging his corpse on back to Jackson. It's the evidence that she needed to prove that yes, indeed, Joel did lie to her. And when she comes to that realization, like, Bella doesn't say a goddamn thing, but her face says everything as they walk back, man, on horseback. Oh my God, her face was her performance there, man, was fucking sensational. Give the woman the Emmy just for that sequence alone, man. Bella cooked with that scene, man. That was so well done, man. Her performance was so good, man, there in that scene when she finally realized that Joel did indeed lie to her, man. And then they get back to there. Joel spins this story about he wanted to see her one more time, whatnot. Ellie's like, you're lying and everything, man. Tells her the truth. She slaps him and he says, you swore. And then we fast forward to later on the episode after the whole thing with the little dance thing, and we get to the talk scene. Like I said, beautiful sequence handled just like it is in the game. Incredible sequence, just like when I saw when I played the game, and I wanted to fucking cry. Incredible, man. Incredible sequence. But like I said, I don't know how I feel them putting in place here rather than at the end of the game, at the end of season 4, like it was in the game. We'll have to wait and see how I feel once the show wraps up completely, man. See how they adapt season 2 as part 2 entirely. Excuse me. So I'll have to wait and see on that, man. But like, yeah, I don't know. I'm a little iffy about that whole sequence, man. Jesse, I thought it was cool how they added more backstory to him. We found that he had like this little crush on this Mexican girl that came by Jackson on their way to Mexico, man. He fell in love with her. She wanted to ask him to take him with him, to go with them to Mexico. He decided not to because he wanted to do what's best for the community and everything, man. So I really liked how they expanded on Jesse's whole storyline in the game, man. They gave him a lot more to do. Another big sequence that was changed here, man, was Mel and Owen and their deaths. Now, you guys remember I think I mentioned before in my first impressions video, I probably mentioned during my streams of the game, man. I thought the game completely fell flat here, man, with the whole Ellie killed a pregnant woman. Oh my God. Neil wanted this to be this whole big oh shit moment to really sell just, revenge bad and all that jazz. But I felt like it completely fell on its face because, Mel had like immense plot armor, man. This woman should have had a miscarriage, before Ellie even got anywhere near her, before they shot her, man. It was a whole thing. I wasn't a big fan of their characters either, so this moment kind of fell flat to me. Now, with the show doing just Ellie's storyline, not having all that backstory, I feel this will probably strike way more home with the show onlys because they don't have the baggage. And who knows, once we get to season 3, they might change that where the woman isn't like a Loki, a bitch, that doesn't console the father of her child, man, that doesn't have massive plot armor, surviving car accidents, being involved in car crashes and not having a miscarriage, So the show might fix those little bits of plot armor that she had to, and make her a little bit more likable of a character, man, because I thought I wasn't really big on any of Abby's crew, man, and her relationship with Owen completely fell flat to me. So hopefully the show fixed that. But anyway, in the show, man, we did this whole thing where the same happens in the game, man. Though you don't get to see, though there isn't a random dog that Ellie like shanks like you do in the game, man. So I do wonder if the dogs get cut out in season 3, or they're just not gonna show Ellie killing dogs. Because to be fair, we haven't seen any dogs in the game, man. No dogs that are chasing after Ellie, man. So it looks like the whole dogs being enemies thing is like something that they got rid of completely in the show. That's just gonna stay exclusive to the game. But we might see it in season 3. Who knows? But anyway, as I was saying, they do so the scene plays out basically the same as it does in the game, man. Ellie holds him at gunpoint, man. That's where Abby is, this time the third. And then Owen goes for his gun, but Ellie got that gunslinger reflex and aim and just kills Owen. And then ends up hitting Mel, or whatever the chick's name is, by mistake with a bullet grazing her neck, cutting it open, and she starts bleeding out. And now in the game, man, she just dies. Ellie moves over her coat. She finds out she's pregnant. She's like, oh my God, what have I done? But here, it's different, man. Where this time Mel opens up her jacket to reveal she's pregnant and brings Ellen and Ellie to try and save the baby. But of course, because Ellen is a 19-year-old girl that's not a fucking surgeon, she doesn't know what to do. She freezes up. Mel tries to tell her how to do the thing, but she just doesn't have the time to tell Ellie how to do it. She also doesn't have the confidence or expertise to do such a procedure to save the child. So the baby still dies. The woman still dies. The baby does not survive as well. She puts her shirt back over her tummy. And once again, Bella was fantastic here. This version I think was done with Halloween of the Scene a lot better than the game, man. I still think it fell kind of flat. The whole like, you killed a mother, you killed an unborn child, revenge bad, you know. I'm still not so. I'd still kind of felt a bit flat to me, but definitely this was handled a lot better than what we saw in the game, man. So this was a massive improvement, and I like the little Easter eggs they leave to show of like happened beforehand when like Lev, with Abby and Lev, man, and Abby or it might have been Mel cutting off the arm of Lev's friend because you know the Seraphites had like beaten it in with a hammer and like it was a compound fracture. There was no saving the arm; they had to cut it off, otherwise she was gonna die from an infection or whatnot, man. Whole thing, you get to see little Easter eggs in that one, man. You see like a battle going on in the Seraphites Island, which was actually a bit of content they were able to put back in the game, because apparently they were going to actually do a whole section where Ellie does go fight the Seraphites on the island, which I think goes into that bit of concept art we've seen, like you've seen for the game, floating around with Ellie with like a machete hiding behind a tree, with like Seraphites like surrounding her with lanterns and everything, man. You do fight Seraphites as Ellie, but I don't think you ever fight them in like a forest or on the island like Abby does. So that was cool. We got a whole little bit of that one they were put. I wish it was expanded on more. We actually got to see Ellie fight the Seraphites on this island and try to escape that way, man, rather than just like leaving her to die because there was another fight going on there, man. So I wish they expanded on that sequence a little bit more, but that was still pretty cool to see. Anyway, as I was saying, like you said, you can see the little Easter eggs of that, which I thought was pretty cool of what happened before Ellie got there, that I thought was really neat. And yeah, I've rambled on long enough, man. I don't want this review to be 40 minutes long. So I think we're gonna end things off, man. I think I'm topping everything I want to top, and I'm so sure forgetting something. And yeah, season 2 was awesome, man. I'm obviously excited for season 3. Love the way that this season ended with basically the same massive cliffhanger the game did when they like did a massive switch over to Abby's storyline when she finally meets up with Ellie again in the theater, man. It was amazing there. It was amazing there in the game, man. It's amazing here with the cliffhanger, man. And they start off with Abby's story the exact same way they did in the game with her at the stadium, man. I love the way the stadium was showing up, man. Super cool. And yeah, season 3 is gonna be Abby's storyline, and then season 4 is gonna be the final stretch of the game, man, which I'm excited for. Anyway, guys, like I said, I've rambled on long enough. My final verdict for the last of season 2, because I forgot to do it earlier, is a 10 out of fucking 10, ladies and gentlemen. As always, hope you guys in the video. Like if you did, subscribe for new. Follow me so you feel like it. Links are across below. And as always, come back for more. See you guys next time.